The departure of Lord Krishna from this mortal world marked the beginning of Kali Yuga, which brought about a fall in moral and spiritual values. Even Brahmins fell down from their Brahminical standard and indulged in large-scale animal slaughter in the name of Vedic sacrifices. Such was the magnitude of animal killing that the Supreme Lord had to incarnate as Lord Buddha to stop this mindless violence, even at the cost of rejecting the Vedas. Millions converted to the Buddhist faith, and thus the objective of the Lord's descent as Buddha was temporarily achieved. But in the larger interest of mankind, it was most necessary that people be brought back to the teachings of the Vedas. It wasn't easy, and Lord Shiva was chosen for this thankless task.
Swami, you don't look peaceful. What is the matter?
Today, I have been requested by Lord Vishnu to perform a very strange task. I have never ever done anything like this before.
You are no stranger to a strange task. So many times in the past, you have accepted adversities for the welfare of the cosmos, like drinking the poisonous halahal or holding the Ganges on your head. But you always remained equipoised. So please tell me, what is it now that is causing you to lose your composure?
All the services I have done in the past were for the glorification of Lord Narayan. But this time, I have been ordered by the Lord to indirectly defame him. Yes, as per my Lord's desire, I shall take birth on earth as a sannyasi. I will spread ignorance by forming a dubious and false philosophy. Simply by hearing this Mayavad philosophy, even an advanced scholar will fall down. I will misrepresent the real meaning of Vedas. I shall describe the Jivatma, the living entities, and Paramatma, the Supreme, to be one and the same.
This certainly sounds ominous.
The atheistic Buddhist philosophy, which rejects the teachings of the Vedas, has taken over on the planet Earth. Thus, to eradicate it, I will have to propound an Advaita philosophy, which is nothing but a kind of Buddhist philosophy. Advaita means non-different. By preaching that God is formless and telling that man is non-different from God, people will be attracted to this philosophy and thus be brought back into the Vedanta Dharma. Though inauspicious, it is very much required, and therefore I shall execute it without delay.
Whatever the Lord desires is perfect. Since you are carrying out His order, even the inauspicious becomes all auspicious.
And thus, Lord Shiva took birth as Shankaracharya to spread his Advaita philosophy, which gradually attracted the vast majority of people back to their Vedic roots. However, the demigods who are ever faithful to the Supreme Lord were not happy that the people were misguided. Thus, they approached Lord Vishnu for a solution.
O noble men, feeling compassion unto the residents of Bharatvarsh who are turning atheists due to the onslaught of Buddhist and the Shankaracharya philosophies, you desire me to incarnate on earth and quickly rectify the situation. However, I am not scheduled for my next avatar yet. Besides, you don't require me to incarnate for this purpose. All of you are full of all good virtues, and therefore, all of you are fully competent to carry out this task.
All right, O Lord. You only kindly choose someone among us to execute your order.
All right. Vayudev, I would like you to incarnate on earth and establish my personal form as the last word of the absolute truth. At present, my devotees are suffering due to the dominance of many imaginary philosophies. They are praying to me, that I sent someone to guide them. Go and appear in a family of pious Brahmanas and present the undistorted meaning of the Vedic literature.
भगवान विष्णु की जय, वायुदेव की जय.
And thus, the stage was set for Vayudev, who is also known as Mukhya Prana, to incarnate and execute the mission of the Lord. Vayudev, who was earlier Hanuman in Treta Yuga and the powerful Pandava Bhim in Dwapar Yuga, chose a place called Pajaka Kshetra in the small holy village of Udupi, near Mangalore in South India, for his birth in the house of a Brahmana named Madhyageha Bhatt.
Hey, hoo, ha, he, hoo, ha, he, hoo, hoo, ha, he, hoo.
ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ ಅಣ್ಣ.
What a funny person. Just look at him.
Madman.
Hucha Manasha.
Mad.
I am not mad. You all are mad if you ignore what I have to say now. Listen carefully. Mukhya Prana, an incarnation of Vayu, the wind god, who is a great devotee of Narayana, will soon incarnate here at Udupi. He will re-establish the supremacy of the Lord's personal form and illuminate the path of pure devotional service. He shall possess the 6 opulences to an extraordinary degree. No longer will the humble devotees have to hear from the so-called spiritual masters who blaspheme the Lord by claiming that he is deaf, dumb and without form. This Acharya's mission will be to defeat all opposition and smash their impersonalistic philosophies to pieces, and thus deliver the pious devotees from their perilous condition.
It didn't seem like some madman's nonsense, but seemed like some kind of a prophecy. Wonder who that fortunate couple must be, who will become proud parents of the incarnation of Lord Vayu.
Little did Madhyageha Bhatt know that he and his chaste wife Vedavati were the chosen ones. Expressing their desire to the Lord about begetting a son who will be his staunch devotee, they performed intense austerity and abstained from eating food and drank only milk for 12 long years. All this while, they engaged in performing devotional service and chanting the names of Narayana. After 12 years, when they felt the time was right for them to conceive a child, they invited learned sages and brahmanas and performed the Garbhadana Samskara. And soon, Vedavati got pregnant and gave birth to a son. Soon after the birth of the child, Madhyageha Bhatt performed the Jatakarma ceremony. An astrologer was busy studying the horoscope of the child.
Extraordinary! The horoscope of your child is most extraordinary. he possesses all the 32 auspicious characteristics in great measure. In fact, his horoscope matches exactly with that of Vayudev. In future, your child will reform the path taken by the misguided men by firmly establishing the philosophy of personalism, and he will be regarded as a great Acharya.
Vedavati, do you remember that once a madman had prophesied outside Ananteshwar temple about Lord Vayu taking birth in this village? Looks like he was speaking about your son. Just look at his face. He shines like 100 suns. I am convinced that your son is none other than Lord Mukhya Prana.
Madhyageha Bhatt and Vedvati were however still not convinced about the divinity of their son and did not take such comments seriously until one day.
So dark. Passing through this jungle at this hour could be dangerous. Come, let's go.
ಅಣ್ಣ ಬರ್ರಿ ಬೇಗ. ಅಣ್ಣ
Om Him Him Shrim Fat Swaha.
But hey, this won't work on me. I'm a Brahma Rakshasa and I'm very powerful. I am capable of killing all of you who have dared come into my playground at midnight. However, I know that this small child is the incarnation of Vayudev. If you place some dust from the child's feet upon this man's head, I will become freed from my form as a ghost, and your friend will return to normal. Come on, do it.
No.
So you won't do it, huh?
No.
Alright. Now just see how I shall kill this very person whose body I am occupying.
Stop! Yes, I will do. I will do as you say. Give me the child.
No.
And in this way, Madhyageha Bhatt and Vedvati were convinced about the divine presence who had taken birth in their home. They gave him the name Vasudev. As he began to grow up, he was very big in size for his age, and he was always hungry no matter how many times he was fed with milk.
Vasu, please be patient. Amma will turn back soon. Please stop crying, Vasu. Amma will be here any moment. Amma. Vasu, look here. Amma, where are you? Okay, I'll sing a song for you. Krishna ni pe kane baro. What shall I do? The baby is getting more and more impatient. I can't even give him something to eat. His Annaprashna Samskara, the first green feeding ceremony, hasn't been done as yet. Well, I don't know anything. For the moment, I'll give him some greens to pacify him. In the meantime, I'll go bring Amma back.
The grain in the bag was rough grain, meant for feeding the cows. When Vedvati returned back, she was shocked to see that the 40-kilo bag was almost empty.
Ayurama! Oh, thank God. Even a young grown-up bull cannot eat 40 kgs of grains at a time. How could this infant finish it off? It is not possible. How could you feed something which is meant for cows? He will fall sick. Are you insane?
A couple of years passed by and Vasudev performed another of his miracles. Madhyageha Bhatt was in deep trouble. He had purchased a bull from a man named Kakra Shetty and was unable to pay him back. This man Kakra Shetty took a vow of fast unto death, sitting at the doorsteps of Madhyageha Bhatt as a means of recovering his debt.
Vasu, you go inside and have your meals. I will take care of the matter.
No, Pa. You go inside and have your meals. I will take care of the matter.
Vasu, this is no time for jokes.
I'm not joking, Appa. I will make him the payment. Please don't worry. So, you are the one who is fasting because my father owes you some money. Come along with me. I shall make your payment. Come.
Hey, little boy, what are you doing?
I am collecting money to give it to you.
What? But you are collecting tamarind seeds. Ah, of course. You are just a little boy. What else could I have expected from you? Anyways, give what you want to give. I don't wish to break your tender heart.
Chamatkara, miracle. You are a wonder boy. You are extraordinary. Oh, Madhyageha, your son has performed an absolute miracle. He has transformed tamarind seeds into gold. He has given me far more payment than you owe me. He is no ordinary being. You are most fortunate, O Madhyageha. You are most fortunate. ನಾನಿವತ್ತು ಶ್ರೀಮಂತ ಆದೆ.
As he grew older, his father got his Upanayana Samskara, or the sacred thread ceremony, performed. For Vasudev, this was very significant because this meant that his playful childhood was over.
Om Bhurbhuvasvaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat.
In school, Vasudev's teacher, Totan Tillacharya, would be annoyed with him because at every opportunity he would run home to eat something and then slowly return to school.
Vasudev, why don't you take your studies seriously? Your behavior is frivolous. Don't you want to become a learned scholar?
Guruji, I do not see the point in repeating what I have already learnt.
I assure you that I have learnt all that you have assigned to me.
Alright, let's see what we have learned so far. Repeat the verses which we have studied today.
Today, you are speaking from the Aitareya Upanishad. I shall repeat now. Om Atma va idameka evagra ashitna nyat kenchana mishat sa ikshata lokana suja iti sa ima lokana sujata ambo marichi mara apo dombah parena divam dyoho pratishthantariksham marichiyah. In the beginning, this was but the absolute self alone. There was nothing else whatsoever that winked. He thought, let me create the worlds. He created these worlds like Ambas, Marichi, Mara and Apaha. That which is beyond heaven is Ambas. Heaven is its support. The sky is Marichi. Earth is Mara and the worlds below are Apaha. Prithvi Maro ya Adasta Apaha.
How is this possible? He has not only memorized the slokas which I taught him today, but also the verses which I have not taught him so far. He has also chanted them perfectly, according to the rules of the Jata, Pada and Karma. With relation to the meter, his pronunciation is perfect. Who is this extraordinary child?
After Vasudev finished his schooling, his father was looking for a nice Brahmin girl for his son to get married to. However, Vasudev had other plans.
Sannyas?
All these years, I was wondering as to what is my life's goal. After a lot of introspection, I have concluded that I want to re-establish the principles of pure devotional service to the Lord and defeat all the Mayavadis who are misguiding the people.
But you can do all this even without accepting sannyas.
No one would listen to me, Amma, but everyone listens to a sannyasi. In order that my message be accepted, I have to take sannyas. Please give me permission.
Vasu!
Oh noble sage, my son is adamant about taking sannyas from you. He does not know how hard a life of a sannyasi is. Kindly dissuade him.
He's our only son. He will be our support in old age. What shall we do without him?
Dear Appa, Amma, do not worry. I shall not take sannyas until you have another son to take care of you. But till that time, I shall remain here, serving the lotus feet of my Guru.
How do you know that a brother will be born to you? What if we do not have another son in future?
It is predestined. Rest assured.
O Madhyageha, O Vidvati, I can understand your pain. Vasudev's decision to accept sannyas had been forecasted to me much in advance by the Lord himself. It is his desire. Vasudev is destined for immeasurable greatness. One cannot change what has been preordained. Rather, feel proud to have been blessed with a son who will bring all name and fame unto both of you.
As predicted by Vasudev, a son was soon born to his parents. Though reluctant, they gave him permission to accept sannyas. He accepted sannyas in the Brahma Sampradaya at around 10 or 11 years of age and was given the name Purna Prajna Tirtha. As years passed, Purna Prajna Tirtha turned out to be a handsome young man with a strong muscular build. He shone with a radiance akin to the demigods. Once, a deviated Buddhist scholar, Buddhisagara, and an equally deviant Jain philosopher named Vadi Simha came to debate with Achyuta Preksha.
I am old now.
My Shishya, Purna Pragna Tirth is competent to accept your challenge. You may kindly proceed.
Shunya! Everything in this world is void. Shunya. Because nirvana or liberation is the end of everything. Well, let me ask you, do you see this pillar? Or you see all these people sitting around? Or you see me sitting here? Well, if you do, you are in deep illusion, my friend. The fact is, we don't exist. Nothing exists. Everything here is an illusion. The universal void, that all-pervading emptiness, is the only reality. So, all this talk about actions and karma, both good and bad, is not so important. Because in the ultimate analysis, surrender unto Buddha awards liberation, and one no longer has to bother about any reactions thereafter. Why? Because after liberation, everything ceases to exist, as if it was never there. Therefore, every person should live his life to the fullest.
Ocean of knowledge, Buddhi Sagara ki.
Yeah! Hey, watch out! There's a snake behind you!
Snake! Snake! Where's the snake? Where's the snake?
Stop! There's no snake. It was just a joke. But even if actually there was a snake, it wouldn't have really mattered, right? Because the snake bite, and your death would have been just an illusion. It would have been nothing. Void. Wonder why your fear seemed so genuine to me then. Weird. Buddhi Sagara. The meaning of your name is one who possesses an ocean of knowledge. Unfortunately, you're an ocean of ignorance. Your name should have rather been Tamasa Sagara. Yes, Lord Buddha can award liberation, but he never propounded the confused and perverse philosophy that you are preaching. Under the garb of voidism, you are telling me that one is not punishable for one's misdeeds by any higher authority? Okay, so I shall murder you and your family right now. It is perfectly okay, right? Because I would not be answerable to anyone, as I won't exist after liberation. Your dubious philosophy is not only misleading, but it also incites one to indulge in wild sense gratification without any shame. This is nothing but naked atheism. We are controlled by higher authorities at every stage of life.
Well, speaking of the controller and the control, I have this to say. As long as one is impure, the jiva is controlled. But as one gradually cleanses himself of impurities and anarthas through austerity and penance, he is no longer controlled, but becomes the controller.
So you have overcome your impurities.
It took a long time, I tell you.
So you are the controller.
I believe I am one with that universal force and not different from him.
One with that universal force, Vadi Simha ki.
Jai! Okay. So tomorrow morning, try controlling your bowel movements. I mean, don't go to the toilet and test your control.
But that is not possible. The call of nature is the law of nature, and one can't go against it.
Why not? You claim to be the supreme controller. You must be controlling the life and destiny of millions of souls. Controlling the needs of your own body should not be difficult. Tomorrow, try controlling yourself. What say, oh learned Vadi Simha? Yes, Buddhi Sagara ji.
Excuse me, I have to go.
Where? To the toilet?
Yes. No, to do my evening prayers.
Oh yes, it's evening now. And evening time is an inauspicious time for such tough, intense, competitive discussions. Tough? Intense? Shut up, you wretched fool!
Whatever you both want to say it right now.
Well, we'll definitely meet up tomorrow morning. It's going to be fun. Come, let's go.
O most learned sage, please have mercy upon us and accept us as your disciples.
Bravo, Purna Pragna Tirth, bravo! You fill my heart with pride.
Buddhisagara and Vadisimha did not turn up the next day morning. In fact, they had run away in the middle of the night itself. Purna Prajna Tirtha later went to Chandragiri on the banks of river Payasvini. His striking and attractive appearance was diminishing the luster of the many star-like pundits, who were a storehouse of illogic and mental speculations. There was an eminent pundit who wanted to debate with him.
Stop it! Quite a crowd has gathered to see you. Indeed, you look so radiant. Anyway, you claim to propagate the personal form of the Lord as the highest truth. But you are a hypocrite. I was just now hearing you speak from the Aitareya Upanishad. And from what I understand, your interpretation is that the Lord has no qualities and that He is formless.
No, sir. The word nirguna, which I used during the discourse, means having no material qualities. Because the Lord is all spiritual and He has nothing to do with the material energy.
Can you prove it?
Every word in the Vedas has 3 meanings. Every word in the Mahabharata has 10 meanings. And every word in the Vishnu Sahasranam Stotra has 100 meanings.
100 meanings? 100 meanings, really? Okay. Explain the 100 meanings of the Sri Vishnu Sahasranam Stotra, and we will all find out whether you are really knowledgeable or whether you are just bluffing.
The first of the 1,000 names of Lord Vishnu is Vishwa, saying that the root of the word is Vish and the suffix is Kwa. The first meaning of Vishwa is Vishnu, because he enters the universe. The second meaning is that he pervades the entire universe. The third meaning is that he is carried by Garuda. The fourth meaning is that he is perfect in all aspects. The fifth meaning is that he empowers Vayu, being situated in the heart as Paramatma. The sixth meaning is that...
And in this way, Purna Prajna Tirtha went on to explain 100 meanings of each word in the Vishnu Sahasranama Stotra. Purna Prajna Tirtha was already known by the names Anumana Tirtha and Ananda Tirtha for his prowess in knowledge. As he went on defeating the scores of hodgepodge philosophers who came to challenge him, his glory spread far and wide, and over a period of time, he was widely accepted as an Acharya and was known as Madhvacharya. Madhvacharya once went to Badri, where the deities of Naranarayan Rishis were personally discussing the Hari Gita Bhashya, his commentary on the Bhagavad Gita, with him. Thereafter, abstaining from food and sleep for 48 days and maintaining Maunavrat throughout, he finally set out to meet Srila Vyasadeva in the uppermost regions of the Himalayas. Unable to bear separation from his master, Satyatirtha, Madhvacharya's chief disciple, tried to follow him. But it was obvious that Satyatirtha would soon perish in the icy winds.
Gurudev, Gurudev, oh merciful master, please take me along with you.
Return back, Satyatirtha. You will not be able to endure these conditions.
No, master, no. I'll not go. I'll not leave you. Gurudev. Gurudev!
taking pity upon his disciple, Madhvacharya, who is non-different than Vayudev, created a powerful gust of wind which carried Satyatirtha all the way to Badri, where the other followers were staying. Madhvacharya did not go to the Badri that we know of. He went to a Badri that exists on a transcendental platform and is not accessible to common man, nor is it shown on any map. Madhvacharya went to Shamaprasad in Uttara Badri, which is the eternal abode of Vyasadeva. Even to this day, Vyasadeva is residing here. This place has no icy winds or snow. Instead, it was warm, sunny, and most beautiful.
Vyasdev ji, oh Gurudev, oh Master.
For a long while, the two engaged in a friendly conversation about the means of restoring a genuine Vedic civilization and devotion to Lord Krishna. Srila Vyasadeva instructed Madhvacharya to write a thesis on the Brahma Sutras. They drank the nectar of one another's association into the innermost core of their hearts. After spending some days there, Madhvacharya returned back to Badri and thereafter to Udupi. In the year 1285 AD, Madhvacharya once went to Malpe beach in the middle of the night. It is there that he composed the rich in devotion Dwadasha Stotram. That night, Madhvacharya had a special feeling that the Lord of his life would soon appear. As he waited on the beach, a terrible storm had struck. He saw a merchant ship in a very precarious position. By his potency, he drew a deep breath and miraculously the ship was saved. Feeling deeply grateful, the captain wanted to offer him a reward.
Oh Mahatma, thank you so much. Thank you. You saved us from a certain death. From my years of sailing experience, I know it would have been impossible for us to come out alive. We are eternally indebted to your kind self. Please tell us how we may attempt to repay back your kindness. What can we offer you?
I am a sannyasi. I need nothing.
Still I insist. Please.
You're coming from Dwarka, right?
Yes, we are coming from Dwarka.
Do you have any Gopi Chandan aboard the ship?
Oh sure, we have huge chunks of Gopi Chandan which we use as ballast for our working.
Very well. I would like to see them.
Yes, please come.
Madhvacharya picked up a huge chunk of Gopi Chandana, which even 50 of the crew members could not lift together. And what was hidden within that huge ballast was a most beautiful deity of Krishna, who the world today knows as Udupi Krishna. A grand Pran Pratishtana ceremony of the deity was carried out.
शेषवन्द्योरुवृन्दारकं चन्दना चर्चितोदारपीनांसकम् इन्दिरा चञ्चलापाङ्गनीराजितं मन्दरोद्धारिवृत्तोद्भुजा भोगिनं प्रीणयामो वासुदेवम् देवतामण्डलाखण्डमण्डनम्
In the 19th chapter of the Pratisarga Parva of Bhavishya Purana, which was compiled thousands of years ago, it was predicted that a meeting would take place between Madhvacharya and Lord Chaitanya, the incarnation of Lord Krishna in the age of Kali Yuga. And as per the prediction, such a meeting indeed took place.
Oh Madhvacharya, I am very much pleased by your unflinching devotion unto Krishna. Though my time for appearance in this world is still some time away, but when I will incarnate, I will accept initiation in your sampradaya. And this is only because you have accepted the personal form of Krishna as the supreme absolute truth.
Once at the river Ganges, no boatman was willing to ferry Madhvacharya and his followers across the river to the other end. Fearful of the Mohammedan kings who had issued a strict warning against ferrying any non-Muslim across the Ganges. For Madhvacharya, this was another opportunity to display the wonders he could exhibit. He made himself and the others light enough to walk across the river. When King Jalaluddin Khilji heard and saw this, he fainted in astonishment.
How did you manage to walk on water?
Na hum karta, Hari karta.
Why? Why have you come here? By coming to our land, you have put your life into risk.
Madhvacharya, who knew many languages fluently, chose to reply back in the mother tongue of the emperor, Turkish, much to the astonishment of everyone.
Bucharest says eight all the gonna say. Amabul land sees eight all the gonna sonra ver devem. You claim to be the owner of this land? Fact is, none of us are the proprietors of any piece of land. This land existed before you were born and will continue to remain after you die. You are merely the caretaker for a few years. You are in deep illusion, O king. Sen sadeche bir kiachi ay larzazin kabichi. Are. Siz derin halayen nare.
Oğlum, gözlerimi yaktın var. Lütfen beni affet. Ben sizi karşı ciddi bir suçlamış. Ben böyle apatlık ettim. Oh great saint. I was such an idiot. Please forgive me. I have insulted a great soul like you. I hereby assure you that you will not find any trouble henceforth in your preaching activity. Please forgive me. Temin idrim ola çaktir. Sizi temin idrim ola çaktir.
And thus, Madhvacharya continued his many pastimes on earth, like once killing a tiger with a single blow, or consuming 4,000 large-sized Rajakeli bananas and 100 liters of milk at one go, as if it were no more than a morsel, or once singing a bhajan with such devotion so as to cause seeds inside the ground to immediately sprout into fruit-bearing trees. As his fame spread in all directions like a raging fire, many people came to see him and some to challenge him, not only in the field of philosophy, but also wrestling.
Thank you for considering me a worthy opponent for a match with you. But let me also find out whether you two are capable of a fight with me.
This is an insult to us! We've never been defeated in a wrestling match ever! I once carried a large piece of stone which even 30 men could not lift.
And I once kicked a coconut tree so hard that not only did all the coconuts fell down, but the tree itself was uprooted.
If you and your brother are so boastful of your prowess, why not find out? If either of you can lift my foot off the ground, then we shall have a match. So, Mr. Coconut Tree, what happened? Anyways, I shall give you both another chance. I shall now chant the name of God. If either of you or both of you together can squeeze my neck so hard that I am forced to stop chanting, then I shall concede defeat. Om Namo Narayanaya. Om Namo Narayanaya.
Case of these wrestlers, Madhvacharya was soft and forgiving, but for the impersonalists and Mayavadis, Madhvacharya's attacks were like the wielding of a sword because he would cut opposing arguments to shreds. For Madhvacharya, one of his biggest victories was yet to come, a contest which was witnessed by thousands of people. The person was Trivikrama Pandit. He was known even in his childhood as an erudite scholar throughout South India. He was the biggest authority on the Shankaracharya ideology. He debated with Madhvacharya for days at end, asked some serious questions, and put forth very heavy arguments.
I do not agree. God cannot be a person because he is everywhere. So one who is everywhere, how can he have a form? The only conclusion is that since he is omnipresent and his energies are spread everywhere, he cannot have a form, but must be formless.
Are you not imposing human limitations upon the Supreme Lord? God means there is nothing which he cannot do if he so desires.
Is it not true that he has expanded himself into the unlimited Jivatmas, who all are present in entire universes in the different species of life?
Yes, it is true.
Exactly. By the same logic, if he has expanded himself into the unlimited Jivatmas, what remains of him or his body? After such infinite distribution, nothing remains.
Oh, again the logic, or rather the lack of it. The Isha Upanishad says, Om Purnam Mada Purnam Idam Purnat Purnam Udaschate Purnasya Purnam Adaya Purnam Eva Vashishyate. Even after dividing himself into millions of jivas, he still remains as he is, in his transcendental form. Just like the sun and the sunshine, the sun rays being non-different from the sun are present everywhere. Yet the sun planet remains as it is, distinct and undiminished.
Your point is valid, but then sunshine and the sun itself are inseparable. The sunshine is in a way sun itself.
In a way, but not entirely. There are millions of sun rays and one sun ray has no control over the other. But the sun globe is directly responsible for the existence of all those sun rays. Likewise, we are the knower of one's own body. But he is Kshetragna, knower of all the bodies, because he is situated in everyone's heart as Paramatma.
Our Guru Maharaj, Sripad Shankaracharya, empathetically states in his Saririka Bhashya that only through tapasya and renunciation one gets rid of all desires and cleanses away all impurities of mind and body. He gets elevated to the stage of liberation, where ultimately he becomes one with the God.
You said that to attain moksha, one has to become desireless. However, is desiring liberation not a desire? And to not desire is also a desire in itself, is it not? Factually, it is impossible to become desireless. The only solution is to dovetail one's desires in satisfying the Supreme, and that, my friend, is true liberation. By devotion, one becomes godly, not God. Just like the iron rod placed in the fire for a prolonged period becomes fiery, not fire. And you speak of devotion? What kind of devotion is this that after practicing tapasya you want to take God's position? Huh?
No.
You have fought all these days just to uphold the dignity of your Guru Sri Shankaracharya. But if you really want to respect him, why don't you obey the instruction which is just delivered before departing from this world? That one should not waste time in philosophical speculation but rather immerse oneself in chanting the glories of Sri Krishna. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Muda Mathe.
Yes. I am a Muda. Under the spell of ignorance, I have wasted my entire life speculating about the impersonal form of the Lord. I misunderstood the simple instruction and real bhav of my Guru Maharaj. I am a greatest offender. And one who fails to follow instruction of his Guru cannot achieve perfection and can never ever be accepted by the Lord. But now, I beg to you that please grant me the desire to worship the personal form of the Lord and guide me on the path of pure devotional service. Please accept this fallen soul as your disciple. Please accept me. Please accept me. Please accept me.
After this victory, Madhvacharya's position as the most authoritative voice on Vedic scriptures became undisputed. Trivikrama Pandit, now Trivikrama Acharya, became one of the Madhvacharya's most trusted disciples and went on to compose the legendary Harivayu Stuti. Madhvacharya would sometimes close the curtains of the temple when worshipping Udupi Krishna. On one such occasion, the curtains were closed longer than usual. Being curious, Trivikrama Acharya peeped inside and witnessed a most wonderful incident. Under Madhvacharya, 8 of his chief sannyasi followers founded the 8 principal mutts like the Pejawar Mutt, Adamar Mutt, Palimar Mutt, and so on around the temple in Udupi with several branches all over the country. The principles preached by Madhvacharya are till date followed rigorously in these mutts by his descendants. The most prominent slogan in all these mutts is Hari Sarvottama Vayu Jivottama, which means the Lord Hari is the supreme being and Vayudev, of which Madhvacharya is an expansion, is a topmost living entity because he is situated in every living entity as the Pranavayu. One can abstain from food and water for some time, but not without the life air. To say that Madhvacharya caused a tectonic shift in the way people perceived spirituality would be an understatement. Millions converted to Vaishnavism under his powerful leadership. Madhvacharya was satisfied that his mission had been successful. He had sufficiently smashed the propounders of impersonalistic and atheistic philosophies through his preaching, his disciples, and the 100-odd books which he wrote on various devotional subjects. And he had sufficiently spread the glories of the Supreme Lord. And thus, the time to wind up his mission on earth had arrived.
Hare
It was the 9th day in the month of Magha in the year 1317 AD. Madhvacharya was reciting verses from the Aitareya Upanishad in the Ananteshwara temple, surrounded by his disciples. Suddenly, celestial voices could be heard from above.
All glories to you, Vayu, who has enlivened the fallen conditioned souls.
All glories unto you, O dearmost servant of Lord Ram, and all glories unto you, O powerful Bhimsen.
And all glories unto you, O Madhvacharya, who is so dear to Lord Krishna.
May your name and fame be eternally be praised.
Our spiritual master has departed from this mortal world. We have become orphans today.
We are left with no shelter today. Now, who will look after us?
The demigods customarily do not spend much time on earth after completing their mission, or when their celestial origins are revealed. Madhvacharya had left for Uttara Bhadri to be in company of his beloved Srila Vyasadeva. The Dasa Parampara or the Bhakti cult reached its zenith during the time of Madhvacharya and was further taken to greater heights by the many legendary saints directly under his lineage like Vyasatirtha, Purandaradasa, Kanakadasa, Vijayadasa, Gopaladasa and Raghavendra Swami. Madhvacharya's uncompromising philosophy of dualism inspired many other saints of different sects like Sant Tukaram and Namdev in Maharashtra, Mirabai and Vallabhacharya in the west, and Sant Tulsidas in the north, who duly acknowledged his contribution in their lives. One in his disciplic succession was the great saint Madhavendra Puri, and his disciple was Ishwara Puri. As promised to Madhvacharya, Lord Chaitanya, upon incarnating on earth, accepted the Madhva Sampradaya by accepting Srila Ishwara Puri as his guru. And thus the devotees of ISKCON fall under the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya under the astute guidance of Srila Prabhupada. It is apt to say that the enormous success ISKCON enjoys all over the globe in its preaching activities is not without the blessings of Madhvacharya, because it was his intense desire that the holy name of the Lord be chanted all over the world. The pastimes of Madhvacharya are far too many, and it is not possible to enumerate them all. But his body of work has left behind a legacy for the millennia to come, and this legacy shall always remain.